Hi, everybody. It's Kay, Summer, and we have our guest Raymond with us tonight. Welcome to Black Readers Con. We're glad that you are here with us, and we have Gracia. Hi, Gracia. We
Hello.
we are just getting started this evening. So, for those of you who have not attended a Black Readers Con event before, welcome. And for those of you who are returning, we're so glad to have you with us. Tonight, we're really excited because we're going to be talking about nonfiction books by Black female authors who are from or who have lived in New York. Remember to follow Black Readers Con here on Facebook, YouTube. Follow Black Readers Con also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We have many events taking place in preparation for the conference, which will be October 28th through the 30th, and in New York and virtually. So we're all very excited about the conference. On Monday nights, join Twitter Spaces at 8 p.m. Eastern. On Wednesdays, Instagram, 8 p.m. Eastern, and every Saturday here on Facebook, same time. So I'm very excited about tonight. What about you, Summer?
Yes, I hope to learn a lot.
Well, I think we have the right guest tonight. Since you will learn a lot. You will. So Raymond, we'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I am Raymond. I am one of the executive board members of Black Readers Con, also a member of Black Men Read, and I like reading nonfiction.
And where are you from, Raymond?
Originally from North Carolina.
Okay. And what do you do?
What I do, I am a researcher by day and a reader by night.
Gracia, how are you this evening?
I'm good. I'm good. How is everybody?
Doing good. So, Gracia, for those who are not familiar with you, where are you from?
I am from South Carolina.
And what do you do?
I am a paralegal and journalist by day. I'm an author and private personal historian and avid nonfiction reader by night, day, and any other free time I have.
And the both of you really should be teaching in colleges. That's just my opinion.
Oh,
I
thank you,
mean,
Karen.
I will say this, Gracia. For those who don't know, Gracia was live earlier today on Instagram talking about, please name the book and the author.
I was talking about They Were Her Property, White Women as Slave Owners in the American South by Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. And I have to be sure because my mind always wants to say Rogers Jones, but it's Jones Rogers.
Well, let me say this. As I was sitting there listening, I felt like I was in class. What about you, Raymond? Raymond, did you feel that way when Gracia was talking about the book?
Yes, class, but in a good way.
In a good
I
way.
enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I haven't read the book, so it was even.
Oh, yay. So everybody get the book who hasn't read it. It's like I said at the end of the live, I won't say that it's an enjoyable book, but it's a very educational book. You can learn much from this book. It dispels many myths that we've all been taught or have heard about white women, and it's an excellent book. I would suggest everybody get it.
Okay. And I definitely want to read it, especially after the conversation that I heard today. I was like, wow, I really need to get this book because you were teaching class today. Okay.
And it's thank you, Kate. And it's a relatively short book. Like it's only 296 pages total. And the book itself is only 207 pages. The rest are notes and the bibliography. So
Okay.
it's not a long book at all.
The book
That's
is
one.
the book is They Were Her Property for folks who were asking in the comments.
Okay. Yes.
So, Gracia, let me ask you this. This might be a very difficult question for you to answer, but
Oh God.
do you have a favorite nonfiction book?
No, I can't even answer that. I have favorite nonfiction books,
Mm-hmm.
plural. But it's not like I have a favorite book of all time, but I don't have like a favorite nonfiction book. And the reason I don't have a favorite nonfiction book is because the area that I like to study, which is pre-revolution through Reconstruction, there's always new books that come out about things in that, and because that is a fairly big stretch of time. But there are normally books that come out, throughout every year about that particular period of time. So I always get new books, but I don't have like a favorite singular book.
Okay. And this, I know this question is going to be equally difficult, maybe. A favorite nonfiction author?
Okay. That's hard. I do have, I do, because I can give you this, and I've been posting women on my page, Black female historians. And my shirt today actually says support Black female scholarship. But
Nice.
I do have a favorite Black female historian.
Okay.
And she is Annette Gordon Reed. She was the first person I posted on my page. She is the historian who I have the most books by, the Black female historian. And I just love the way that she writes. I fell in love with her book, The Hemmingses of Monticello, which is one of my top 5 books of all time.
Wow.
But there is a way that she writes that incorporates history and things that are relevant to our day-to-day lives. And it's a perfect combination. If there's anybody in here who read her book from last year on Juneteenth, it's a very small book, but there is a lot of history in that book. We learned about the holiday Juneteenth itself. We learned a lot of Texas history. And we also learned a lot about Annette Gordon Reed's life. So she is my favorite Black female historian.
Okay.
Annette Gordon Reed.
And I believe Summer had a question as well.
I was wondering what makes a nonfiction book a favorite. Like, do you go reread nonfiction, or is it the information, or is it the way
For
they
me,
tell the story?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. It's the information and the way that information is introduced. Because I'll give an example. I have several books from the same time period. Like, I have a lot of books on Reconstruction. I have a lot of books on the Revolution, but it's always, what makes it a favorite to me is the information and the way that the information is introduced. Another thing about me in the nonfiction that I read, I like to read nonfiction that everybody would find, if not, enjoyable, at least readable. Because some nonfiction works are very academic. And I think that's a thing that turns people off from nonfiction a lot. But all nonfiction books are not written the same. Mm-hmm. You can find some nonfiction books that read just as good as historical fiction, if not better. And you get the information and it's all true. And that's what makes a nonfiction book a favorite for me.
I like narrative nonfiction. To me, it's not as textbooky. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't feel like I don't feel like just the way that it's written. Now, don't get me wrong. If I could go to school full time and that be my profession, I would do it. As long as I don't have to take any math or science, I'll take anything but those 2 classes, because I can't do math and I don't like science.
I'm with you on that. As long as I don't have to pay for the exorbitant bill that is going to be at the end.
Yeah.
Because I love the idea of higher education. I just don't love the idea of costs.
Yeah, but some nonfiction books, they read so much like a textbook that it's not enjoyable. And I think that's why so many people are turned off by nonfiction and don't want to read it.
Well, I will say this on my page, and not all,
Hmm.
but most of the books that I post, I feel like you could really get into. Like, I don't really post a lot. There are some books that the content may be heavy, but the way that it's written isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And of
Okay,
course,
that
Ken,
makes
you already
sense.
know there are some books that I post that have 800 pages, which I know is an immediate turn off in your life. So I understand.
The
We're
tone.
going to get to that. I have a question about that. So before we get there, Raymond, I want to ask you the same thing. So do you have a favorite nonfiction book, favorite nonfiction author?
Um, I don't have like one favorite nonfiction book. Like Gracia, I have many favorite nonfiction books.
Hmm.
In terms of authors, um, I mean, it's hard to say too. It's like, I can think of like Ibram Kendi. He has two books that I've read that are really good.
That's the guy who wrote Stamped.
Stand from the Beginning,
Okay.
How to Be an Anti-Racist. He got some, young adult versions of those,
Hmm.
and kids versions. So yeah, him. Uh, and I'm trying to think if there anybody else I've read multiple times, and no one's coming to my head at this moment.
So I do have Stamped. I have not finished it. And I bought my nephews Stamped from the Beginning, and I gave them that book and another book at my cousin's wedding reception because they happened to be in town for that, and I gave it to them. And my cousin was sitting there during the reception reading. My nephew was sitting there during the reception reading the book. And so when I saw him the other week, he said, Auntie KK, I'm almost finished with that book. And I said, well, how do you like it? He said, it's pretty good. So, kind of proud because, he mostly reads fiction. Of course, he's 13.
Mm,
But yeah, so he was enjoying Stamped. So
wow.
I really need to get back to, the adult version. Maybe I should have read that when I gave him. I don't know. So I want to ask you. So both of you are extensive readers, right? So Raymond, do you know approximately how many books you own?
No,
No.
I
Are
don't even
we
have an
are we
estimate.
500 or less, or between five and 1,000?
I definitely say less than five. Yeah, definitely less than 500, but I couldn't ballpark it.
Really? That surprises me
Mm.
because you're such a heavy reader, Gracia.
I give a lot of books away too, so that's
Oh,
probably.
okay.
But
Okay, I don't give away books unless sadly I will only give away a book that I don't want.
If you don't want it, that means it's not good, and then nobody wants to
No, no,
read
no,
it.
no, no, no,
Well, it's
no,
not
no.
good to her. It
I'll,
might
I'll
be
give
good to
I'll give
someone.
an example. I bought
Okay.
a book that was outside of my genre
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people hyped. That when I got the book was not good to me at all.
mm,
So it's a book that I feel like somebody else would enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
So I gave it away.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if there's a book that I really think that somebody should have, I will buy a book for them, but not give them my book, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make
Okay.
sense. So do you buy everything you read, or do you use the library?
No, ma'am,
No
because
library.
I
Girl.
can't with the library because I'm the type of person I can read a book and then I'm like, I'll put it up and I'm like, oh God, I need to get that book down again because it relates to something else that I read.
Mm-hmm.
So every book that I read, I buy.
Okay. That makes sense.
But here's the trick.
Yeah.
Any book that I think I'm interested in, like if you have like an e-reader or like Kindle or anything like that, you can easily get the free samples of the book where you can read a couple of pages
Yeah.
to know if it's really what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I always do that before I buy books because I don't like to waste money.
Well,
And that way I'll know if I want the book or not.
that makes sense. It does. Raymond, do you use the library?
Not currently. I have in the past. When I worked at a library, that was one of the perks, right? So I
Yeah.
kind of used it for that. But since I don't frequently go to a library, no, it's primarily buying, or I get my free arcs from NetGalley.
So I would guess then that the two of you don't listen to audiobooks.
Very rarely for me.
Um,
I read 2 audiobooks last year out of, yeah, 2 audiobooks last year.
I listened to an audiobook. It may have been 3 years ago.
wow.
And it was only because my boyfriend was listening to it in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a book that I had already physically read. So
Um,
it didn't really
Okay.
make any difference.
I
That's
have a
I can't. Audio doesn't do it for me. I'm just a book person.
Mhm.
And I said it because I didn't think that ebooks would do it for me. But they work sometimes. But I would much prefer a physical book
Yeah.
if I can get the physical book.
actually for nonfiction. I read obviously romance, but for nonfiction, it's easier for me to go through like ebooks or physical books because a lot with nonfiction, it seems like you need to go back to things a lot to see to match info and stuff like that.
And one thing about Gracia, and let me tell you, Gracia has her info. She annotates in notebooks. She does not, under any circumstances, write anything in a book. She doesn't mark it.
No,
She
ma'am.
doesn't
Highlighters.
do a page. She annotates everything in the notebook. And her thought is leave that book pristine and keep everything in the notebook that you want to know or that
Right.
you refer back to. Now,
And you
Gracia,
put the notebook with your book.
I am guilty. I will annotate a nonfiction book. Now, I rarely ever do that in fiction. I did do that in Their Eyes Are Watching God, but I can always go get a clean copy of that. But nonfiction is easy for me. I just highlight right in the book, Gracia. I'm sorry. I put my notes right there. I'm sorry. I do.
My heart was hurt by that. I bought a used nonfiction book one time, and this broke me, y'all. And if I buy a used book, I'm only gonna buy excellent or very good quality. That's the way I roll. And if it comes from a library, I immediately take the little plastic cover off because I don't like plastic covers on my books at home because it's not a library. But I had ordered a very good copy of a nonfiction book, and when I got it, someone had highlighted in the book, and I was hot because not only did they highlight, they used a pink highlighter. Yellow was already wrong, but they highlighted the book in pink. I was so mad. I mean, and I just put that book on a pile and said, you know what? I'm just gonna have to get another copy of this book.
I know your nerves would toe up. I know.
I can't even read that book because I'm gonna be angry about that pink highlighter. It was put on another stack for a later time. It was.
So, talking about loving and absorbing books, because that's what the two of you do, and you love your books so much that you could not ever see yourself writing in them. When you're picking out a book to read, and I already know the answer to this question. This question is for people who are not familiar with you and Raymond, okay? Okay. When you're picking out a book to read, does the volume or length of the book dissuade you in any way from reading the book? Like if it is a tome, for example, which in my opinion, a tome is a book that is over maybe 400, 450 pages. So does that bother you?
It depends.
Okay.
Um, so yes and no. Yes, when the font is really small on the text.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, but no, generally, because I mean, I don't read I mean, I read maybe 2 or 3 books that long every year, so it's not that many. But yeah, that's mainly the font size. It's kind of like, oh, how long is it going to take me to get through this?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's me. So, I know Grace
Gracious.
not intimidated by any thick
You
books.
haven't been?
I agree with Raymond on the font size
Mhm.
because my thing is if you're gonna do 1,000 pages, but you're gonna be typing everything in 8 font, I don't care for it. I'll just throw the book away. I would be so mad. I have a book, Sacagawea, and Raymond, I talked about this book in another room sometime back. This book has 1,400 pages.
No way.
Have I started it? No. But when I got the book, y'all, the book is only like this big. So the words are very, very small. And I was like, ugh.
Like
That's just a book for me to say. That's just a book for me to say that I have, because I have no plans on reading it anytime soon. But if we're doing, regular font, I'm good with any number of pages of books. Like for me, an average book is normally, let's just say 600 to 800 pages, if it's a nonfiction book.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll go over into the thousands, like, what do I have? Like, Daughters of Africa, the anthology, the new Daughters of Africa. Like, I want to say that may be around 1,200 pages. But for a book like that, and especially since it's an anthology, it's like something that I read some of alone, every now and again. It's not like I sat down with it and decided to read it, the whole thing.
The person who wrote it, what were they thinking?
Look, all I'm gonna say is I wouldn't even read a 1,400-page book if it was a book about my life. There's no way I would not read that.
They got a lot to say. I guess they're very long-winded.
I mean, oh my goodness. So, Raymond, what books do you have to share with us today that are nonfiction books by Black female authors who are either from or who have lived in New York?
Okay,
I got some good ones for us.
Yes, I got 4 books for y'all. As we've mentioned offline, this was a very hard endeavor.
It was.
Because I don't pick my books by finding out if the author is from New York. But anyway, we're here. We are here. So first book I have for y'all is and this actually works. This is a twofer kind of one book, but it qualifies twice for this scenario. This book is called Faith Ringo by Lisa Farrington. And Faith Ringo, for those who don't know, is a Black female artist, author, mostly known for her paintings, quilts, and things like that. And she is originally from New York. And then Lisa Farrington, she is a art historian who is also from New York or teaches in New York. Faith Ringo is like 91 years old.
Oh, wow.
Still active in the art industry. And small plug, one of my jobs when I was in school was organizing her papers. We built a study room of her an archive of her papers. So I got to know her, her work through that. So yeah, it's very, very important individual in the art world to check out. So book is about a black woman from New York by a black woman from New York, and that's this book. So, you want me to go through all of mine, or we're going back and
Well, I
forth?
was going to ask you, is there art inside?
Oh
Are
yeah,
there pictures?
yeah. So this is one of her pieces here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Probably one of her famous ones is this quilt called. Oops, sorry. That's called Tar Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and this was known as a story quilt that later became a popular children's book by the same name. And so she would make these quilts, and it would have panels that would tell the story of what was going on in the quilt.
Nice.
Yeah, so she wrote several. She's written several children's books, like think late '80s, early '90s up to now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. What else you got?
So this next book is She Came to Slay by Erica Armstrong Dunbar. The Life and Times of Harriet Tubman. Sorry for the glare here. And Erica Armstrong Dunbar, check my notes real quick again. She went to Columbia University, where she received her master's and PhD. Columbia is in New York. And so this is a illustrated book about Harriet Tubman. It's kind of a brief overview of her life. And I read this after watching that Harriet Tubman movie that came out a couple years ago with Cynthia Erivo.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I haven't read any additional books of Harriet Tubman, but I think this is a good like starter.
Okay.
Because it's not that long. Since we like to talk about pages here, it is 157 pages.
That's
Um,
good.
the font is it's small, and I don't know why I keep opening this book because my glare, the light is anyway. Just trust me, the font's not small. So
Okay. I wrote that down. She Came to Slay. 157 pages.
oh, and of course, Harriet Tubman, was in New York for a time too in her lifetime. So another double New York, not New York native, but was in New York for a time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my third book is one that everybody in this that's watching and that is on this panel here has read, or at least read part of. 1619 Project,
Yes.
created by Nicole Hannah Jones from New York Times Magazine, a Black woman. And within the book, we have a number of Black women who wrote essays in the book who are from or have connections to New York. So people like Michelle Alexander, Martha Jones, Linda Villarosa, and Kimberly Henderson, who did the photographs in the book, if y'all remember throughout the chapters. All 5 of those women, Black women from New York, in this book. If y'all haven't read 1619 Project, read it. It's a little lengthy, but we had a great time at Black Readers Con December and January reading this book. 2 chapters a week. Yes, just get it.
I had to binge that one. It's kind of heavy.
Summer binged that in what, a weekend?
In a weekend, yeah.
Yes.
I read an audiobook, so
Yes.
Wow.
So for anyone watching who did not know that we had a read along in December and January, we, as Raymond mentioned, we read 2 chapters a week. And then there were live events on Instagram on Friday nights to discuss the chapters as we read. So you can go back to the Black Readers Con page on Instagram, go to the IGTV tab, and you can watch the videos and see the discussions for the 1619 project. That was the book was it stirs up so many emotions, right? You want to fight, you want to cry. They're just
but
And the discussions were so good. Every week it was just so good to hear everybody's take on that book. And then the comments were great too. That's one thing about Instagram, it doesn't keep the comments, but yeah, very emotional passages in that book, and I thoroughly enjoyed the read along. I'm so glad that Black Readers Con decided to do that.
Yeah, the one thing that drew me in was the first chapter was so much I didn't know, because if you read a little bit, you think, oh, okay, I know Black history, like I know what they're going to talk about, and that book just like, oh, well, I really didn't, and they had all the receipts, they had all the, I mean, like you Google stuff and it'd be right there on the American on the US.gov website, like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
It was good. It was just, yeah, that's my
Yeah.
nonfiction for the year.
For the year, Summer.
Maybe
You're
a
gonna say
decade.
that in front of Raymond and
Oh
Gracia?
no, I plan to read. I plan to read Will, so maybe I'll do two
Okay.
this year.
That took my soul out for a second.
I knew it did. Oh goodness. Do you have any others?
One more for
Okay.
me. This is The Will to Change by Bell Hooks, who lived in New York for a time. We read this for Black Men Reads Book Club last month in February. This is a short book. Subtitle is Men, Masculinity, and Love. Talking about how men can be better men, fighting against patriarchal systems, learning how to actually be more vocal about feelings, how to treat women and children better. Covers a lot of it's very very powerful book. And Bell Hooks recently passed away December of last year. So this is, and I didn't even know she was in New York. She lived in New York until I read the little bio on the back. I was like, this is going in the list for.
Right.
So
I,
yeah.
I will say I read I want to say Communion by Bell Hooks, and that was a very easy read. Like, being a fiction reader, it didn't feel like, oh, I got to read this nonfiction. She's a really good writer, and I loved her point of view on things. I love a book that challenges my thinking, or makes me like, yeah. I don't just automatically say, oh, okay, I believe this. I'm going to check it, double check it, everything. But I like a book that makes me think, like, maybe I should think about this a different way.
Well, thank you, Raymond, for sharing those with us.
Absolutely.
Gracia, what you got for us tonight? You're on mute. Oh, your mic is, I can't see the bottom. Your mic is stuck. Okay. Do you think you need to go out and come back in?
Maybe.
Okay. I'll go ahead and show the few books that I have. So I kept thinking, I don't have any nonfiction books by somebody from New York. I mean, I rarely read nonfiction as it is, but I said, let me really think about this. And then I thought of one person. I was like, how could I not remember that I have her books? And that is Iyanla Vanzant, who is from Brooklyn. And I have 3 of her books. This one is Until Today. Okay. And this one, Daily Devotionals for Spiritual Growth and Peace of Mind. So that's the first one. The next one is In the Meantime, Finding Yourself and the Love You Want. And I don't know, let's see, I think I had 2 copies of this one and I think I gave one away because I think I annotated in one of them, Gracia. But this
Don't say that. You going.
But yeah, so Until Today, In the Meantime, and then this one, I took the cover off, and now I don't know where it is. This one is The Value in the Valley. And I can't remember what this one is about, but all of us know Mother Iyanla, right? So you kind of get an idea of what her books are about. Now, this one is really, really, when I say I'm stretching, I am stretching because this author is not from New York. And as far as I know, she did not live in New York, but she was the Chicago um, chief editor for the New York Times. So, like I said, that's a stretch.
You probably had to go into New York for business.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Her name is Isabel Wilkerson,
Mm-hmm.
and this is Cast, The Origins of Our Discontents. I read this with my book club in January, and I started this book in the midst of reading 1619. So I had both of these going at the same time, and let me tell you, my nerves were shot. Okay. Because they're both so heavy with the information in them. And then I have to go to work and I'm looking at people out the side of my eye, like but the book, oh, I loved this so much. And I also have The Warmth of Other Suns.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, I haven't read this one yet. How many pages is this? Let me look without all the notes and everything. The epilogue ends on page 538.
You good. You good.
You got it.
Yeah. It's narrative nonfiction.
Right.
Is it
written like
three different stories? It's three different stories about three different people and their life migrating from the South. You can do it.
Okay.
I have not read Cast, but I know that Warmth of Other Suns is not as brutal and traumatic as Cast.
It's not.
So.
Okay. I'm gonna trust y'all.
I had a question because I've seen the books that Gracia and Raymond post. How do you guys read so much heavy stuff and just not explode? Y'all smile a lot and you're nice to people and
Great
everything.
question, Summer. Great question.
Gracia, you want to start?
Okay, it's not that we don't explode. Well, I'll say me. It's not that I don't explode because a lot of it is heavy, angering, heartbreaking, and it just makes you really, really mad. But when I started reading nonfiction, which was real early, y'all, when I was still in my teens, I challenged myself to be able to accept the information and save the emotion for later, or take the emotion out for a later time. And I've done pretty well with that. I read stuff and it angers me, but I deal with the emotion and I don't internalize it. And then even though a lot of stuff that I read is really, really heavy, I think because I've been doing it for so long, I want the information so it doesn't stop me from reading it. I've just learned to handle the emotions that I feel when I read it. If that makes sense.
Do you find it if you're reading, we read a lot of history and things that should have changed but haven't changed at this point? Do you find it makes you take action more in I don't know, in your community or in government or something like that? Because you're reading it all the time, does it make you say, okay, I can't just sit here and read? Or is it or is that part of your bookstagram where you're I need to share this with everybody? People need to know this. The word needs to get out.
More so with bookstagram and talking to people about books and information, and just like you said, things that haven't changed. I love to, let people know that history is, cyclical. Everything comes back around. And that was one of the things that got me into historical nonfiction. I'm a big believer on the why, because a lot of the problems that we have here in America now are not new problems. They originated hundreds of years ago.
Yeah,
and when you go back and look at that type of stuff, okay, it's this is where this started. how do we fix it now?
Yeah, I saw that a lot in 1619. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, and that's my take on a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to, you know, democracy and the American government, things like that. And I've always had a real interest in that. Like when it comes to my reading, like I love anything about, you know, the founding of this country, the Constitution, the Supreme Court, you know, because these are areas that have created or upheld many of the processes that we have going on right now that are unfair practices. So I like to put that out there. I like to let people know where they can find the information, and then everybody can work on how we need to change it.
So did nonfiction become your niche when you were like in college maybe, or was it even before that? When did nonfiction become your niche?
It was before that.
Mm-hmm.
Like my father was very, very interested in history, and I am the oldest child of my family. So my dad would often share with me the things that he would read, and I found this stuff interesting. Oh my God, I may have been 11, 12. Now he didn't give me the really heavy stuff at 11, 12, but just, you know, the little beginnings of how things happen in America, you know, and as I got older, some things he showed me, and then some things I just started looking for myself. And then it just became a thing. Has anybody ever seen National Treasure? Those movies?
Yes.
Like, I'm the type of person who I love those movies. But I'm the type of person, if I start with one thing, I am going to search and search and search until I can find out everything about that thing.
It's like a rabbit hole.
Yeah, just like earlier today when I told you that I saw Marion, South Carolina, and they were her property, and then I went, you know, onto my little rabbit hole where I had the maps and everything.
Yeah,
that's the type of person that I am. And then once you get down the rabbit hole, you find so many other things that branch off, which of course makes other things for me to read and understand. And then that's just been a lifelong thing with me.
So what books do you have to share with us tonight? I know you got some good ones.
Okay, listen.
Uh-oh.
This was some trickery that y'all pulled. Like Raymond said, I really had to get out here looking at these books because I'm like, I have no idea who's from New York. Now I got to research that. But anyway, my first book, which I don't have because it wasn't where I could put my hands on it. But to piggyback off of Raymond, my book would be, the first book I'd want to talk about was Never Caught by Erica Armstrong Dunbar. It's a wonderful book about George and Martha Washington's search for her body slave, her dowager slave owner judge. It is not a long book at all. It is an excellent book if you want to learn anything about history, some Revolutionary era history, and the practices that George Washington and his wife employed to try to retrieve this woman, which they never did, hence the title Never Caught. And
how many years did they, Gracia, how many years did they look for this woman?
Oh my God, I can't remember like offhand how many years, but they looked for her until she was middle to older age. And the funny thing is, she actually was found at one time by George Washington's nephew. And he told her that she could come back and they, you know, there would not be anything done to her. You know, by this time she had been married. She had a child. I think she had one child then, maybe two. And he was like, you know, they said they just wanted her back. And she was like,
right.
Why would she why would she go back? Why would she give up anything when she had her freedom?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's just, as we said earlier, it's just the illogical minds of people.
Right.
And he left, I guess, to give her time to think about it. But of course, when he came back the next day, she was gone. But that would be the first book that I would talk about. Like he said, Erica went to Columbia, and right now she's also the executive producer on a show on HBO Max called The Gilded Age, which is about 19th century New York.
There you go. Connection.
And this is a show that I love. I know maybe nobody's watching it in this room. I'm watching it. There's only one episode left. It's very, very good.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go back and check that out.
I saw the advertisement, but yeah, I prefer to read and then watch TV. So
okay. From that, my next book is a book, and this book is by Carla Peterson. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if she's from New York. I don't. But it's a book about New York.
Okay.
And it's called Black Gotham, A Family History of African Americans in 19th Century New York City. So in watching The Gilded Age, there's a character that they have. Her name is Peggy Scott. She is a Black woman, and they talk about the Black elite on that show because she's actually a member of the Black elite. And this book was one of the books that they used for the research for that character on the show. I actually just have a sample ebook copy because everywhere I've looked, a hard copy is unavailable of this book. So we just gonna deal with this now until I can get me a hard copy. Okay, the next two books I have, also someone that Raymond talked about, is Professor Martha S. Jones. She was the only author that I had that I knew was from New York.
New York.
But I have her book, Vanguard, How Black Women Broke Barriers, Won the Vote, and Insisted on Equality for All. So this is about the Black suffrage movement. And then I have her book, Birthright Citizens, which is about, the whole title is Birthright Citizens, A History of Race and Rights in Antebellum America. This is about African Americans and citizenship following emancipation. This is actually the book, her chapter in the 1619 Project was actually a little bit from this book. Yes. So I have those two books by her, my only true New York author.
It was a hard assignment, in my opinion.
It was hard. and I feel like it was also extra hard for me because, like I said, the time period that I read, most of it happens. You may get a little bit of stuff that happens in New York and a little bit of stuff that happens in Philadelphia, but most of it happens in Virginia on down. So it's hard. It was hard for me to find books. My next book is Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington, because Harriet also went to Columbia, because at this point I just had to find people who had been in New York at a substantial point.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to put on this live? She actually went to Columbia also. This is a book that I am also going to do a group read on in the near future.
Okay.
I have a good many people who want to read it. I said today, for me, I know that this is a book that I would much prefer to read with other people rather than alone. So there will be an announcement. No, I didn't say when, but soon. And we're going to do this book.
I bought that book recently, so
I saw you.
Yes, so I would like to be in on that read along.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Whatever I post, I'm going to do like I did with They Were Her Property. You know, anybody who's interested, they can just comment below so I can make the little group DM situation so everybody will know when everything's happening. My last book that I have with me is a book by the historian Callie Nicole Gross. Now, she actually went to Cornell University in New York. And this book is Hannah Mary Tabbs and the Disembodied Torso.
Ooh.
This book is about a murder mystery and a murder trial where an affair happened. Someone was dismembered and the torso was found and the trial ensued. She was also co-author with Dana Ramey Berry for the Black Woman's History of the United States. I also have that book, but it wasn't where I could locate it for this evening.
Wait a minute. Have you read that book already, Gracia? The Disembodied Body? The Disembodied Torso? Have you read?
The Disembodied Torso?
Yeah, have you read that yet?
No, I only know of the story. I haven't read the book yet.
Huh. I'm interested in that one because I like mystery thriller, that kind of thing. I just watch the ID channel all day. So
oh Lord.
That's pleasure watching, Raymond.
It's plenty to watch up there.
Oh.
It's so interesting. So
I'll watch you guys talk about it.
You can get this page.
Right.
It's very slim. Raymond, if you would please give the page count on this book.
I will.
It is very slim. I know you can do it. And if you want, I'll save it. I won't even read it yet.
I would probably be really interested because there's a murder and things have to be figured out. So that's right up my alley. I would like that.
224 pages.
There it is. Very short.
Crime. True crime.
I need to see if my library has that book. Mm-hmm.
I can read that.
I might look at that Black Gotham. That sounded interesting. I don't know about Disembodied Torso. No happily ever after in that one.
No, ma'am, not at all, not at all. And those were my New York books. Now I will say this: I had a couple of more books about New York.
Go ahead and show them.
But they didn't fit into what we're doing here tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, you can still share them if you want to.
I only brought one with me, but I can give you the titles of the other. I did bring.
Gracia. Someone has a question.
Well, Letitia Cardi had a question for you guys, for Gracia and Raymond. And Gracia, you mentioned your dad had started your love, right? Mm-hmm. Raymond, what started your love for nonfiction books?
I mean, I think for me, it might have been An Easy Burden by Andrew Young, which I took an African American history class in high school, and our teacher told us to pick a book to read, and I think we may have had to write a paper on it, but it was our choice. It wasn't, they didn't tell us what to read. And so I was big on learning about the civil rights movement. And so that was the first book, I think, at that time that I read about, about somebody who lived through that time. And so, and I know that one's probably about 300-400 pages at the time. So that might have been what got me started.
And we know, Gracia, like you said, it was your dad. Your dad instilled that into you at a young age.
Oh yeah, I learned a lot of stuff from my dad.
So no Babysitters Club when you were 11.
No, and I laugh because my dad was he's an airborne ranger in the U.S. Army, and he taught me a lot of stuff that young impressionable girls probably shouldn't have been taught.
She can shoot you and educate you at the same time.
Quick amendment to my last comment. An Easy Burden was 500 pages.
Why am I not surprised?
In high school too.
And you savored every bit of. Is that the thing about the longer books? Is it the savoring of that? Because you're so invested. Like after 350 pages, like you're really invested in what you're reading. So is that the aspect that you like about the tomes, you think? Is that, I've already spent all this time. What's another 200 pages?
Well, at some point, the book has to be good,
Yeah.
right? So, like, if it's not hidden in the first 50, maybe. I don't have a real arbitrary number, but sometimes it's the first chapter. Sometimes sometimes it just depends on how long the book is.
I just had a flashback. I'm not even gonna say anything, but yeah.
Right. I'm kind of like that too. For me, at the most, I'll give it 2 chapters. And if it's not happening in 2 chapters, I don't even have the time to waste. I got 500 books. I don't have the time to waste.
So what is it to make you put it down? It's like, they can't, they're not, it's not flowing, or it's the information's not.
And I'm going to put this out here. And as a writer, I will put this out here. Some writers cannot write.
Amen.
Period. That's a true statement. Some people, especially for me, how I feel nonfiction works, some people just give you facts. Mm-hmm. They don't really give you no emotion, no, personal thought behind it. And then we have other people on the opposite end of the scale who just give you all of their personal opinion with very little fact. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's got to be in the middle. And I normally give it 2 chapters. And if it's not doing it for me, I will put it down. And I will say this, some books from the first page, or in most of these books, you get an introduction anyway before you really get into the book. I can already tell by that if this is a book that I'm going to continue reading or not. Oh, wow. And I have no problem DNFing a book. I really don't.
Me either. With a quickness.
D.L. White says, I'd rather a book be long and thorough than to skirt over important parts. About the 3 mothers was much too short.
Mm. Mm. And Grace, you're going back to what you were saying, even in delving into the fiction realm, there are some people who can write, but they can't really tell a story. Then there are people who can tell stories, but they're not good writers.
Not good writers.
So I get exactly what you're saying. But yes, please show us the other book that you had there in front of you.
Oh, the other book I had was The Prince of Darkness. The Untold Story of Jeremiah Hamilton, Wall Street's First Black Millionaire.
Oh, but nobody got killed in that book though, right?
No, this is a very good book. Like, this man was like a rival to Cornelius Vanderbilt. Like, this book is very good. But again, it was written by 1, a male author, 2, a white male author, 3, an author from Australia, not even from the US. So it didn't fit anything we had going on here today, other than the fact that Jeremiah Hamilton himself was from New York.
Okay, well.
And the other books that I had that I didn't bring in, I have the book that's called New York Burning by Jill Lepore, which is about the fires of Manhattan in 1741. That many white people at that time felt that this was slave revolt happening, and they ended up arresting a lot of Black people, and a riot ensued. But again, that was by a white female author. And then I have a book that's called The Last Slave Ship by John Harris, also a white male author. And it is about the end of the Middle Passage in New York, about the end of the transatlantic slave trade and ships that were going out of New York, but again, by a white male author. And then there's also another book that's on my favorite list, which is not completely about New York, but a lot of it takes place in New York, and that is Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, which is also in my top 5 books. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in that book that's in New York, but also not a book for this actual life.
I would like to echo that Jill Lepore also is a great historian.
She is.
Yes, she has a
I
very
have
good.
several of her books.
Yeah, she has a very good book on the United States called These Truths, History of the United States. So that's a good one. And while we're on the topic of books about people in New York, one book that came to mind, Gracia, that I know you and I have read is a book by David Blight.
Oh, yes. Yes. Kay, you remember that book, don't you?
Yeah.
Looks like Kay might have some thoughts about that book.
She does. She does.
The book is called Frederick Douglass, Prophet of Freedom.
Listen,
It's about 800.
Yeah, but how many pages?
African American pages.
And Kay left Freddie right where he was at. She put him to flight because she said she just didn't have it.
Listen.
She didn't have time for it.
Okay, I got as far as. Okay, what had happened? Let me see. Let me think.
See, you know, it's gonna be a good story.
What had happened was
it was like in the beginning there was some kind of event happening in like the city square or town square or something, like at the beginning of the book.
I was about to say, how far in life, Kay? Because you said that the town square could have been at any point of this man's life.
It was at the beginning of the book. There was like some big event that was taking place, and everybody was headed there. Yeah, that's as far as I got. I think it was in chapter. It was either in the introduction or chapter 1.
This woman said introduction, ma'am.
She did.
She said the introduction or chapter 1.
Look,
those introductions are pretty interesting.
Listen,
And then you get to the meat.
Look.
I think I was intimidated by the size of the book, and I just couldn't do it. Maybe sometime later I'll attempt it again. Now, just to let you know, I went way out of my way to get the book. They didn't have it in my local branch, so I decided to drive however many miles down the road, maybe 20 miles, I don't know, to go get the book from another library. So I went and got it with every intention of reading it. And I just looked at the size and I just said, I can't do this.
You ain't look at that wonderful painting of Frederick Douglass on the front of that book and say, this is a book I want to read.
It was a beautiful cover. It's beautiful. And he's very
beautiful what's inside of the book.
Listen, you know another block I have with Frederick Douglass. I'll be right back.
I already know what you were about to say. I already feel it.
While we wait for her, the introduction was only 7 pages.
Whatever.
Chapter one was only 13.
With her saying that, I hope she gave up in chapter 1, because giving up in 7 pages, I cannot accept.
It had to have been in chapter 1 then, okay? But this is why I
already knew that's what you were bringing, because I have that book. I already knew.
This is nonfiction. It is an imagination of the life of Frederick Douglass with his Black wife, Anne, and then Ottilie right here. We ain't going to talk about her. But this is Douglass's Women by Jewel Parker Rhodes. And I think this is my block with Freddie, because after reading this book, I just can't. I need to get over it. But this is an excellent book.
But this book makes that book that you held up in my eyes. I know a lot of us, we see, Frederick Douglass as this great historical figure. That book makes Frederick Douglass way more human and relatable as a man
Yes.
because he did as men do.
Yes.
So you need to get over it and read that book.
Yeah,
That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, he was trifling. We know.
We know.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't condone his doings, but that book is good. That book by David W. Blank, that book is excellent.
Oh, okay.
I know what that means, Kay. Just so you know.
Yeah, she ain't gonna read it.
Okay, here's a question.
She never getting that book again.
Listen, is there an audio book for it?
Of course.
Then maybe that's something I can attempt.
You want to know how long it is?
How long is it?
Don't tell her, Raymond. Don't tell her.
Too late. It is. I'll tell you who the narrator is. Prentice Onayemi. It is a total of. Nah, I ain't even gonna tell y'all.
Don't tell
me.
That's got to be like 19 or 20 hours with that many pages.
No.
It's probably 30.
36 hours.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I listened to the Love Songs of W.B. Du Bois, and that was 30 hours.
So you got no excuse then.
I have her address. I have Kay's address. I'm just gonna mail a copy of it to her, so she ain't even got to look for it.
You're gonna mail what? A copy of what?
A copy of Frederick Douglass' Prophet of Freedom to you. a gift from you to me, from me to you.
Then I'm going to really feel like the pressure. I'm going to have to read it. If you send it to me, I have to.
So this is a question for you guys.
Go ahead, Summer. I'm sorry.
Do you feel like more people need to read nonfiction? Does it make you happy when you get people to read nonfiction?
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. I'm overjoyed.
Every time I mention I'm reading nonfiction, Raymond celebrates.
Because so many people hate nonfiction. And as Raymond and I will attest, stop the nonfiction hate is not even necessary.
So you take it as a personal affront when people are like,
personal affront. I do. I do.
Because I don't go around, and Grace and I don't go around slandering fiction books.
We do not.
Genres. You know, we might not read as much of that as most of the general reader population does, but we ain't slandering. Like people be wanting to fight, and I'm like, right. I'm a peacemaker.
Right. You ever watch people's faces? Like sometimes when you say nonfiction, there's a turn in their general countenance that I just don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame and a disgrace.
What did it do to you? What did it do to you?
And which book did it? Which book did it?
The violins or the okay, go ahead.
I started this year with nonfiction, 1619 Project, heavy. Then I read Cast, heavy. How the Word is Passed, heavy. And I
love that book. That is also another good book.
Yes. So I was like, ooh, girl, you need a palate cleanser. And I had to switch to fiction because it was a lot. You know, it's emotional. Like Summer was asking about how do you deal with the heaviness of the nonfiction. I can't do too much at one time. I mean, I do enjoy a lot of memoirs. Now those I could read because I like to be nosy and dig into people's lives. So memoirs, have no problem with those. But like the Frederick Douglass book, it's not that it was bad. It's just that it was a lot, and it was kind of almost textbookish. Not really, but it just. I'll try it again. I will at some point.
I will say it is a lot. You do have to, process. It is a lot, but it's worth it.
But let me say this, Raymond. Like with you and Honore, as you all are dissecting, I sit there and listen, and I'm like, wow. So heavy, and y'all dig deep in your discussions, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, a lot of times reading is I don't want to think about anything quote unquote real life. I just want to drift off into a book and not think about anything important for a little while. So, but
I
y'all
can,
dig deep. You went your y'all dig deep. Woo.
So what books do you guys read on vacation?
the same books I read now.
Same. Oh,
Exactly.
I mean,
Whatever I'm reading, I take it with me. I mean,
vacation don't change what I read.
it doesn't. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't.
so do you guys want to end off on the
This is
what
a beach read.
nonfiction? That's a beach read.
Remy, somebody be like, "Ooh, girl, look at him. He's smart. Look, he got that big old thick book over there."
You gonna get sunburned trying to finish that book.
Do y'all like? Oh, do y'all like to read in public?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do all the time. There was a lady at my grandson's birthday party. We were at not Chuck E. Cheese. What was the other place? We went to Big Air. It's like a trampoline place. And this lady was sitting down. She was just all like this into a book. And I was like, yes, woman after my own heart. I love taking books with me everywhere. I'll sit and read anywhere.
My books go everywhere with me. They go to work. They go in the car. Like when I'm a passenger, it goes everywhere with me.
Yep.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I feel strange without one.
Yeah. I was just going to say, especially when it's very helpful when you got to be somewhere you're waiting for something.
Yes.
In a line somewhere. That's very helpful. Very helpful. And I also think, and I know all y'all agree with this, but it's nice when I see other Black people reading in public too. And I kind of want to show that same example by doing that. So, yeah.
I've met several people that way. Like if I see other people, other women, other Black people reading in public, I just go right over and ask what they're reading because I'm extra nosy like that. And I've made several friends that way. Friends who like to read. And then we share books. So it's great.
I remember when Barnes & Noble had that 50% off sale, and I saw this Black lady in the store, and I'm like, oh, somebody said that one was good, get that one. Somebody said that one was good, get that one too. I read that one, get that book. And I, Gracia, where I live up here in upstate South Carolina. There ain't a whole lot of us up here. We're outnumbered. And so when I do go into the bookstores and I see somebody that looks like me, I just get so excited to see that because it's and I hate to say it, but it's rare when I go in there that I see other Black people. I'm like, y'all got this whole, like Second and Charles has this whole wall of African-American books, and well, not a wall, but a whole section. And I said, well, somebody besides me is coming in here to buy these books, or else they wouldn't have this whole section. But when I'm in there, I never see anybody that looks like me.
I go to Second and Charles. and there's not one near me, so I go to the one in Columbia when I go to see my daughter. But at my local Barnes, which is actually in the local mall, very seldom do I see a lot of Black people in there reading because it's in the mall. I see a lot of people that pass through when I'm in there.
Yeah.
And of course my Barnes has the cafe that offers the Starbucks products.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people in the cafe line, but not a lot of people in there reading.
D.O. White had a comment. Thanks to Raymond and Gracia for encouraging us to read nonfiction. We're going to complain, but we're reading. And I do have to thank you guys because reading 1619 Project really opened my eyes. And yeah, I would not have read that if it weren't for Black readers. I would have never, ever picked it up. Yeah, and it's some other like Will I picked up and some other things I picked up. I haven't read much, but yeah, I appreciate your zeal.
And when you say I have a question to you and for you and Kay.
Okay.
When it comes to nonfictions, are you all fine with reading memoirs? Is that a form of nonfiction that you all like? because of course, as you tell by what I read, I don't really read memoirs. I don't.
Yeah,
But I know that other people read memoirs.
I'll read a memoir before I read a book on slavery, but I like the story. I like the world building and the escape of fiction. So yeah, I don't really do memoirs either. I do like history though. I have to admit, I do like sometimes the history will draw me into a book. But yeah.
I love memoirs.
800 pages is a little bit much for me. I get the cliff notes.
I love memoirs. I will read a memoir, yes. Especially if the person sounds really interesting. Yeah.
I guess Frederick Douglass should have been a memoir.
Well, he has one.
Wow.
Because it is about his life, so I guess it should have been a memoir.
Yeah.
I have narrative. What is it?
Yeah, Narratives of Life of Slave. That one that Summer's holding up.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's the third one, right?
The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. I actually got this from somebody's house that they were giving away, so I have not read this yet.
I don't have that. My Frederick Douglass book is about this thin.
Yeah.
What is it? The Slave Narrative, The Life of Frederick Douglass. I want to say that's the first one.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah. But yeah, I like memoirs. What is that one? Narrative. No, my book is a lot thinner than that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the font.
The one that Summer had, that's his third book.
Okay.
He wrote 3 autobiographies.
Kay has that first printing when no notes were even in it. Just
the one that came out in 1845.
Right. Let me see what I got.
You got a first edition, Kay?
Let me see if I can even find it.
While she's looking, I really do appreciate how enthusiastic you guys are about nonfiction. I love watching your lives and telling about the books that I might not read. I actually, Gracie, when you were talking to Jonathan about the slave revolt, I actually picked up one of the books. If it was available at the library, I probably would have got it. But
good. Jonathan and I are gonna do a couple of more of those once we can work out something with his new schedule. Raymond, I want to tell you, when you were talking about Harriet Tubman and you said that you hadn't read a book about her other than the one that you had, I was going to tell you need to get that book written by that lady who wrote that other book on Fannie.
Talking about Miss Kate.
Yeah, because I'm not down with Miss Kate and her foolishness, but I do know that she wrote a book about Harriet Tubman, though.
Yeah, I'm not reading. Well, we'll see how the Fannie Lou Hamer book goes.
So, this is the Frederick Douglass book that I have, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, and the font is very small. I mean, yeah, and this book is only 76 pages long. 76. Oh no, wait a minute, that's the appendix. Wait a minute. The book is only, what is this? Oh, it's 69 pages long. I haven't read it yet, though.
Mine is 80. Mine is 86, but it has some extra stuff in it. This was the bicentennial edition of his book. Yeah, so.
I'm going to make it a goal. No, I'm not going to say it on live. Never mind.
Yeah, no. You don't. Say it.
You may as well say it. You already started it, no?
Yeah, manifest it.
Exactly. Speaking into existence, sister. Go ahead.
I'm going to make it a goal to read this book this year.
Okay, you said that book has 69 pages. You make it a go and read that book tonight.
Tonight. What's the rest of the goal? Because I know that ain't it.
Not at 69 pages.
What's the rest of the goal, Kay?
You are not frozen.
You are not frozen.
She's not. She's not frozen at all.
The rest of the goal is to come back. I'll come back and tell you and Gracia what I read. That way you'll know that I read it.
That ain't the goal. You just made that up on the fly.
I mean, but
Black Man Reed said you got to say it now. So that's your goal.
no, that is it. That my goal was to read this book this year.
No, I know what the goal was.
What was
He
the
said
goal,
that
Raymond?
To shut us up, Raymond. She said that to shut us up.
Yeah, the goal was she was gonna read this and this.
No.
That's what the goal was.
Lies you tell.
That was the goal. And then she had to think of something real quick because she was like, "Oh no, I don't want to share that."
No, sir. No, sir. Well, Raymond and Gracia, thank y'all so much for being with us this evening and sharing books by Black female authors in New York, plus some others. We really do appreciate you coming. To everybody watching, thank you so much. Thank you for the conversation with us this evening in the chat. We appreciate it. So just to close us out, Black Readers Con will be having a conference, both virtual and in New York, October 28th through the 30th. And we want you all to please follow Black Readers Con on this page if you're not already following. Follow on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. On Mondays, there are Twitter Spaces talking about different types of book topics, 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday. On Wednesdays, we have Instagram Live, 8 p.m. Eastern. Right now, we're doing the Battle of the Boroughs for the month of March, and they've been very fun and interesting. So please tune in for that. And this video will be streamed on YouTube. So if you want to watch the replay, you can either come back here to Facebook to watch, or you can go watch on YouTube. And Summer, was there anything else I needed to throw in?
No, I think you did. You got the on the bottom of the screen is that you can follow us on all social media that Kay mentioned at Black Readers Con. And hope to see you guys next week. And you already mentioned the Twitter on Monday, Twitter Spaces on Monday. Mm-hmm. Wednesday, are we still doing the Battle of the Boroughs?
I think so.
Okay.
I think for the month of March.
Yeah, so we are still in New York mode. So you could let us know about the Black Readers kind of being in New York. But thank you, Gracia and Raymond. Always lovely to hear from you guys. And so excited about all those nonfiction pages.
Yes, it will. And Summer and I will be back next Saturday, and we hope to see you here. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.